What is up there, everybody? Citrus Aviation here for yet another video. And today, I'm going to do my tier list rankings for airports that I've flown through. So recently, ever since 2021, I started flying again. Ever since I worked for an airline, I've been able to have flight benefits and have bought some flights as well. And I wanted to rank every airport I've ever flown through in that time period. So it's been close to 2 years, and I thought since I've flown through, I think it's 17 different airports, I could do this ranking. It's a fairly simple tier ranking like you normally see: S tier, A tier, B tier, C tier, D tier, and you do not want to be down in the bottom tier. Pretty dull. We're going to get down to those airports in this video, but we're going to talk about my rankings. I have them written down here on a piece of paper for reference. So let's get started, and we're going to talk about the airports, and I'll be ranking them. So we're going to do these in alphabetical order, starting from A to Z. So we're going to start with the first one here, which is Albuquerque International Airport. Now, I've flown through this airport once on my jump seat flights when I was flying jump seat for United or Commute Air specifically. So I came in from Houston, 2-hour flight from Houston, then 2-hour flight back, just did the turn. And I thought for the 30 minutes I was there that the airport was really, really quaint. Quite a cute little airport there in New Mexico. The only time I've ever been to New Mexico as well. And it was a really interesting little airport that they have there. They have a really southern styled airport with the famous jade greenish colored jet bridges, and I love the southwestern style of the airport. We quickly grabbed a little something from a little restaurant there, and we did walk around the airport real quick before getting back on the airplane and preparing to depart. It was a really awesome experience though. Neat little airport. They're going to renovate it. I'm really excited to see what they do. Awesome airport. I put this solidly in A tier. The next airport is another A1, and this is Atlanta Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport, one of my favorite airports in the world. I'm slightly biased towards this one. I've flown through it quite a bit. I really like the airport. Despite the fact that it is the busiest airport in the world, it has a very, very good system of organizing the people and travel that goes through it. This one for me is clearly A for Atlanta tier. Great airport. Even though it's so busy, they have such a great system for getting people from point A to point B, and the train system goes directly through the middle of all the terminals. They have a really easy setup to follow for how the airport's laid out. Great signage everywhere. No issue flying through this legendary airport. We next move on to Baton Rouge Airport. Now this is a small airport, BTR, located in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, which is the home of the Louisiana State University Tigers. I hope to go back to an LSU game soon. It's a fairly small little airport, has like 6 gates, a fairly typical small U.S. regional airport. Nothing wrong with it at all, honestly. I went through security very quickly, got to the plane. This was once again on my jump seat flight, so this was my overnight, was in Baton Rouge. No complaints, just a nice little airport. This airport gets C tier. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing amazing, just an average C tier airport. Pretty decent airport for that. Next up, we move to Chicago O'Hare International Airport. This is a big hub for both United and American, and it is the major airport for Chicago, Illinois. There's also Chicago Midway, but O'Hare is the major airport. Chicago O'Hare is one of those airports where I say the rating of it depends who you're flying with. If you're flying through Terminals B and C on United Airlines, it's a great experience. The terminal's huge, lots of great places to sit, lots of great charging points, decent restaurants. It's a really decent, nice section of the airport. If you're flying any other airline, the rest of the airport kind of, frankly, is not that good. And so my rating of Chicago really depends who you're flying. If you're flying through on United, A tier, great experience. If you're flying everybody else, it's D tier. It's terrible. It's not good at all. It's cramped. It's not that good, outdated, not that many good restaurants. It's just not that great if you're flying any of the other terminals in Chicago. Overall, this airport gets a C rating because it could be so much better. C for Chicago. It could be a great airport, but it's not because of some of the issues that it has. We next move to Cleveland Hopkins International Airport. This is the airport where I'm based out of now, so I've flown through Cleveland so many times. I'm very familiar with the airport. I've flown in and out of all 3 terminals, A, B, and C. Flown out of A on Spirit, B on Delta, and C on United. Cleveland is basically an average mid-sized airport. There's nothing too special about it. It has the restaurants you want. It has decent amount of space. There's nothing super special, and there's nothing terrible about it. So it gets an average C ranking as a result. Next up, we got the Dallas airports. Now, we're going to talk about Dallas Fort Worth and Dallas Love. I flew into Dallas Love on Southwest back in May of 2022. So I don't have a whole lot of experience with this airport, but I had no real complaints about it. It seemed to be perfectly fine as a relatively smaller-ish Dallas airport, but it has all the connection you want on Southwest. Dallas-Fort Worth is one of the biggest airports in the world, with connections to basically everywhere you want to go to. It's the hub for American Airlines and the home base, as well as having connection options on so many different airlines. Tons of great options through Dallas. I love the train system they have that goes on top of the terminals. It's easy to get from place to place. The airport is very uniquely designed in little sections. All their terminals are kind of like C-shapes, and each section of gates has its own check-in area. It's got its own drop-off area. It's very well segmented into where the traffic isn't all stuffed into one area. It's sort of spread out, and they've got great use of space. And as a result, I think Dallas is really a really good example of how you can do a major airport without making it feel crowded. Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport gets a B. Dallas Love just gets an average C. We next move on to Des Moines International Airport, which is an airport that I've flown out many times. It used to be my home base, but it is an airport that I'm very familiar with, both inside and out of. For a smaller airport, it definitely has everything that you need. It's got some basic restaurants, got decent amount of space to sit. It's got good parking. The parking prices actually in Des Moines are great. And it's got great service on a lot of airlines. Allegiant has also made it a focus city, so it's given it a lot more connectivity than it has ever had before. So it's got connections to destinations you might actually want to go to, which also helps as well. Ultimately, I decided to give this a B rating. It's above average. It's pretty decent, but it's nothing special. So Des Moines is B. We next move on to Detroit Metropolitan Wayne County Airport. This is the major international airport for Detroit. Now, your experience here at Detroit, once again, similar to Chicago, will be based on what airline you fly on. If you fly on Delta, your experience through Detroit will be, frankly, S tier. The terminal for Delta, they have 3 terminals, A, B, and C, and they are fantastic. They're separated into 2 terminal buildings. A has its own building, B and C is a second building. The experience is great. There is a tram that runs through Terminal A. The terminal is massive, huge areas, tons of space to walk, sit, eat, lots of great restaurants. It's got floor-to-ceiling windows that are really tall. The only thing I'm not a fan of those windows is that there's lots of like little poke dots on it, so you can't really see through the windows. But there's tons of natural light. It's a fantastic airport. One of the best airport flying experiences I've ever had, flying through Detroit on Delta Airlines. Really good. The gate agents were also super friendly as well, which helped. So Detroit is great if you fly on Delta. If you fly any other airline, you fly through the old, what they call the blue terminal. It's not that good of an experience. It's very outdated, not that great. But my experience was flying through on Delta, and it was fantastic. This is going to be the first S-tier airport. Really great experience. Eventually, the blue terminal will get renovated to have similar standards to what the Delta section has. But clearly, if you fly through Detroit on Delta, it's going to be one of the best experiences you have on the airline. It's one of, if not their best hubs. We next move on to another D airport, Denver. Tons of great airports that start with D. Denver International Airport is a fabulous airport. It's got 3 main terminals, Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, with expansion planned for a 4th or maybe even 5th terminal in the near future. Denver is one of the largest airports in the world, taking up over 50 square miles. It's the largest in terms of space taken in the United States, and it was clearly built in the 90s with the potential for expansion, and they're clearly doing that. A lot of people want to go in and out of Denver, and so they've modernized the airport over time. They are currently finishing up a massive renovation project of all 3 terminals, which has modernized the airport to keep it up to date. Tons of places to sit, tons of good restaurants, and my favorite features are the spotting decks that are now at every single terminal. There's one in C terminal they recently opened up, but there's ones in Bravo and Alpha terminal as well. And so you can just sit out there in the natural climate and watch airplanes. It's fantastic. They even have little fire pits, which they turn on during the summertime. It's a nice airport. It's really well maintained. Tons of great services. It's hubs for multiple airlines. Frontier, United, Southwest. You got tons of connectivity on whatever airline you want to fly through. Really good airport. This is the second S-tier airport. We next move on to both of the Houston airports, which I've had the great displeasure of flying through both. Houston George Bush and Houston Hobby. I'm a little bit biased towards not liking either of the 2 Houston airports. So there's Houston George Bush, which is the major United hub, and then there's Houston Hobby, which is the Southwest hub. Both airports I've had not the greatest experience with. Hobby tends to be a bit overcrowded from my experience. I've flown through Hobby both on Allegiant and on Southwest. I understand that for like a mid-sized airport it's decent, but to me it's always felt a little bit crowded, to a little bit difficult to get around, and so therefore it gets a D rating. It's not that great. And for me, George Bush, my issue with it is that it's an airport that's way too spread out. Just like everything's just randomly placed in different locations. It's clear that when they built it, they just built it up over time, didn't have too much in the way of plans of how they were going to congruently build the airport. Each terminal is different, and each terminal has different sections which are spread out. So if you have a short connection in Houston, that's not a good thing. Do not plan a short connection in Houston ever. It'll be a terrible experience. So Houston George Bush gets a D. I understand there's a lot of nice things about the airport. It's got a train. It's got tons of service. There's some nice things about the airport, but there are so many things I find kind of annoying about Houston. Also, non-revving through Houston can be kind of difficult, particularly flying on the South Bravo gates, Bravo 1 through 30. You actually have to go past two gate agents, one up top, and then there's one at the lower section right by the aircraft. It's not an ideal situation, and they really need to figure out a better system. But really, Houston's not my favorite airport to fly through. If I had to choose, I don't choose Houston as my preferred hub to fly through. We move on to Minneapolis-St. Paul International Airport. This is another Delta hub, which I've flown through back when I walked on the ramp for Delta. For an airport, it's not that bad. It's got some downsides, and that is that it takes a long time to walk from place to place. It's a really spread out airport, a lot like Houston George Bush. But it's got good restaurants, got some nice places to watch airplanes and just chill. It's been maintained fairly well, and so there's not a whole lot that I can really complain about other than the fact you have to do a lot of walking to get from place to place. So Minneapolis overall gets a C tier. It's a fairly average airport. We move on to Newark Liberty International Airport, my only New York airport I've flown through so far. I hope to change that. I want to really try the new LaGuardia and try out... Oh, there's another ambulance going out. I really want to try out LGA and JFK at some point. Both well-known airports. LGA recently went through a major renovation, and I want to see how good it is now. But Liberty is an airport that, for the most part, has not been renovated. They are starting to renovate portions of it, as it's a fairly outdated airport. It's a very, very crowded airport. One of the most crowded airports and unnecessarily crowded airports I've been through. For whatever reason, they also don't have a lot of normal restaurants, like where's a Chick-fil-A? Where's a McDonald's? Like, restaurants like that. Very popular restaurants, particularly if you're more of a southern persuasion like myself. You love Chick-fil-A and McDonald's, and they just don't have them there. The United Airlines Club Lounge at gate, I think it's Charlie 133, is really nice. Had a great experience there. That's nice, but you have to pay extra money to get into it. That should not be really consideration in terms of how good the airport is. So honestly, Newark gets for me an F tier. This is the worst airport I've ever flown through. Overcrowded. The windows are tiny. It's outdated. There's just not that many good things to like about it. It's a fairly busy airport too, so you can end up getting stuck in a line, both coming in or out of the airport. And so it's just not that great of an airport. I will say the views when you're coming in on runway 4 right or 4 left are incredible into Newark. That is really nice. You get to see the city of New York. It's really neat. We're going to move on to another mid-sized airport, Omaha Eppley Airfield. I have flown out of Omaha as an alternative to Des Moines a couple of times. Omaha is a really nice airport. It is bigger than Des Moines. It has much more service, particularly with great options on both Southwest, Delta, United, American, a lot more options in general. And it is one of the cleanest airports I've ever flown through. Everything is just immaculately maintained there. The downside is that's an outdated airport. It's getting fairly old, but they have renovation plans. They've already renovated the car rental facility, which looks really nice now. And they're going through renovating the airport for a possible expansion coming in the near future, which they could definitely use some C gates or more gates in general. So Omaha is a really nice airport. I've never really had any issues flying out of it. It's also less expensive to fly out of if you're paying for the flights instead of going through Des Moines. The only other option if you want inexpensive flights in the area is to go down to Kansas City, which is a 3-hour drive from either Omaha or Des Moines. So Omaha is really a great option. A lot of people in the area will fly out of Omaha, and it serves a rapidly growing city. as a great airport. So A tier for Omaha Eppley Airfield. It's one of the better mid-sized airports in that region of the country. We next move on to San Francisco International Airport. This is the only airport I've ever been to on the far west coast of the United States. It is a fabulous airport. I flew in there because I want to do some plane spotting. I actually went on the ground in California, went around to the Westfield garage, and it's really, really cool place. California is a state that's very controversial, but the airport itself at San Francisco is really nice. It's got a bunch of terminals, got tons of restaurants, it's got lots of space to actually sit. It's actually a decent amount of sitting area. The terminals are huge. It's got decent plane spotting locations too. There is a spotting deck that's only open certain days of the week, so do check to see what days those are open. The day that I went, it was not open, and so do check before you go there. But there is a spotting terrace. They call it the Air Terrace by, I want to say it's by Terminal B, but it's a really good spot to check out. Another nice thing I like about San Francisco is that it's a very clean airport. Now, generally California has a reputation for not being a clean state in the United States, but at least the area around San Francisco International Airport is nice. This was not like Newark. Newark was very dirty. The filthiest airport I've been to. That's another reason Newark is an F tier. San Francisco, I am going to put it in S tier. One of my favorite airports I've been to. Really, really like San Francisco. That brings us on to our final airport, Washington Dulles International Airport. An airport I've flown through several times. Now, I've only ever flown through the C&D terminal when I've been non-revving, but I have non-revved through Dulles a couple of times now. It's been generally a good experience. The airport's fairly old as it comes to like modern airports now. It was built up in like, I want to say the 70s, 80s. A lot of the airport has not been changed dramatically since then, so it still feels like it's like a 1970s, 80s era airport. They have changed a couple things. Like they painted a lot of stuff blue now for the current United branding. And there's some good restaurants there, right around the middle point of the terminal. There's a Chick-fil-A, which is really good. And they've got good connectivity to basically most of the destinations you want to go to. The staff there is fairly friendly. It's a clean airport. There's not too many issues with it. I'd say it's a bit crowded. But for overall, it's a fairly good international airport. I have at B tier. I haven't tried A or B terminal, which maybe at some point I will. But it's a pretty good airport overall. And I really want to try the other DC airports to see how it compares to those. So, those are my rankings for all of the airports. So my top two airports are San Francisco, Denver, and Detroit. I think these are the best airports right now to fly through. I want to try some other ones that are really highly rated. Phoenix Sky Harbor, Raleigh-Durham, Indianapolis. Those are really highly rated airports I want to go check out. I want to go check out New LaGuardia, Miami, Eagle County. Lots of great airports I want to go take a look at. But yeah, those are my ratings for 2023, the best and worst airports made on Tier Maker. What are yours? Definitely drop them below in the comments what some of your best and worst experiences are. And so that's it for this video. I want to thank you all so much for watching. Have a great rest of your day. God bless. Peace.